I had the opportunity to explore and spend time in different areas of the company, starting in product and design, moving to merchandising, and spending time in China and India learning about manufacturing. After that, I moved to New York City, and I worked out of the Carhartt showroom to learn about sales and the importance of our partnership with our wholesale partners. When I moved home to Detroit, I moved into the strategy and insights team so I could fully understand and embrace our consumer perspective. Next, I moved to a direct-to-consumer or a D2C team, merchandising both our e-commerce website and brick-and-mortar stores. A few more positions here and there, and I found myself as the director of sustainability, where I'm able to pull my knowledge of all the other areas of the business and work to align our strategy deeply across the organization. I feel like I have finally found my place in the business, and I'm able to see the impact of my efforts reflected on how we are moving forward as a company. So like I mentioned, I'm excited to and wanted to talk through my experience with Carhartt, a brand and manufacturer, and Eugenie, a retail boutique, covering the following topics. I'm going to touch on history, building the team, defining sustainability for each of the brands, and then focus areas within sustainability. And then I also wanted to highlight accessibility and community efforts and why they're important, and then end with some key learnings that overlap across the two brands. Okay, so starting with Carhartt, I'm going to do a very brief history of Carhartt, which is a 134-year-old brand. So Carhartt is a workwear company that was born in a Detroit loft with 2 sewing machines in 1889. It was founded by Hamilton Carhartt. The brand started when Hamilton saw a need for a durable pair of overalls for railroad workers. He was able to recognize early on that durability and longevity was an important value not only for his consumer who purchased the overalls, but also his company and its integrity, while also respecting the use of the materials to create the product. What I like to think of as an early form of sustainability, a value which still holds true to the brand to this day. By the 1940s, Carhartt had expanded and built sewing facilities in Kentucky and Tennessee that still remain there today as well. Even when Carhartt moved its supply chain global, we never left or closed down our facilities in the US. Our associates and our community have always been important and valuable to our business. Carhartt is still a family-owned and operated business. It is run by Hamilton Carhartt's great-grandson, Mark Valade, who is the CEO of the brand. We still remain a workwear brand. We're really not focused at all on trends or fashion, but consider our clothing a tool for the people who wear it. Carhartt is a collection of timeless styles built for functionality and durability. We even still have some of the same products in our line today, such as our chore coat, that have been in our line since 1917. But that being said, although we have heritage styles in our assortment, we continue to evolve and innovate our products, materials, and design for modern day workers, with a future focus on what work will look like over the years to come. Carhartt products not only survive, but they really thrive in the most rugged conditions on Earth. Okay, so how did we build a sustainability team? Our CEO, Mark, has always been passionate about sustainability, and prioritizing a focus in this area really started with him. We have learned that in order to be successful in ingraining sustainability into the organization, it is imperative to have buy-in from all stakeholders. So this includes the leadership, CEO down, the business, and the associates. Eventually, you need to get to a place where the environment is an additional stakeholder and it's considered and acknowledged when decisions are being made. So what did that journey look like? So first, like I mentioned, leadership and alignment and support. So our senior leaders, the executives of the company, aligned on prioritizing and adding resources, people and budget, to a focus on our environmental impact. At the same time, we also committed to prioritizing our diversity, equity, and inclusion and community work alongside this effort. Next, we had to think about where does it sit within the organization. So I'm sure that most people here have heard of ESG, which stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. A team like this would typically sit in HR and legal. For Carhartt, we named our team a little bit differently. We call it our Inclusion, Sustainability, and Community Team. And we use the acronym ISC, with social compliance being a key partner, but sitting outside of our team. At Carhartt, we believe that these three areas of the business, inclusion, sustainability, and community, are stronger when working together. These three areas make up the foundation and are the purpose leading our brand. The ISC team is led by Todd Corley, our Senior Vice President of ISC. Todd reports directly into our president, Linda Hubbard. This is another important aspect, which is why I highlight it, of building our team. Having the leader report directly into the president of the company gives the team influence and shows the importance of our values to our entire company. The I and the C are led by my colleague, Amy Fenzik, who is the Director of Corporate Stewardship. At a very high level, the inclusion team's focus is on our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And the community team's focus is on how we support our Carhartt community and their partnerships. So I lead the S, or the sustainability team. My team's focus is on the environmental impact of Carhartt and building and aligning our corporate sustainability strategy. My team and I work to influence the prioritization of our initiatives throughout the business. So the sustainability team is very small but very mighty. We are a team of 3. The 2 people on my team have their roles focused in 2 distinct areas of our work. So first, we have our sustainability manager. This position is our subject matter expert in sustainability. To put it very, very simply, their focus is on our owned and operated facilities and our supply chain partners from a sustainability lens. They support our facilities, our owned and operated facilities, and supply chain teams as we build the roadmap for internal facility efficiencies and understanding where our supply chain partners stand on their sustainability journey. They are also our greenhouse gas expert and collect and analyze all data as it relates to our emissions. In addition, they are responsible for all of our impact assessments and building and supporting the roadmap for supply chain transparency. The third member of our team is our sustainability project manager. Our project manager is focused on initiatives related to our products and brand and marketing. They work directly with our product innovation and research and development teams and help to bring concepts to life. They focus mainly on circularity and fiber usage. They also work with the brand and marketing team to tell the story of the work of the entire ISC team. This storytelling and sharing of our strategy is not only for our internal Carhartt associates, but also our consumers, working to build out and maintaining the purpose section of our website. And then another important piece is they also work on translating the information to our key partners in both wholesale and in the supply chain. So really, to be successful with having a corporate sustainability team, and in addition to leadership support, we really need organization-wide alignment and support. So we are a heritage brand, and there are a lot of processes that have been in place for a long time, and people that have been working at us for a long time, sometimes 20 or 30 years. So there's a lot, of that happening in the apparel industry in general as well. Systems have been in place. The supply chain, the function of different parts of the business have been in place for a long time. But there's also a lot of innovation happening, and it's important to be intentional in understanding what those innovations are and how you can adopt them. So in order to be sure that our team not only understands what's happening throughout the business and within the industry, but that our corporate sustainability strategy is prioritized and aligned organization-wide, we developed a steering committee that consists of director and vice president level leaders. We meet with this group on a regular basis, and we report out updates, ask for feedback and input. I really want to stress that so much of the work happens outside of the sustainability team. The support and alignment, I use those words a lot, on prioritizing the corporate sustainability strategy is necessary for success. Influencing parts of the business that are outside of my team's control, but crucial for success and reducing our environmental impact, is one of the most important parts of my team's job. So I mentioned, the directors, the vice presidents, the executives, but really, of course, it wouldn't be possible without associate-wide alignment and support as well. So in addition to moving the business forward with our corporate sustainability strategy, sharing information around what we are doing and involving and bringing all of our associates on our sustainability journey is key. not only for the business and making an impact, but also for associate retention. A focus on values and areas where associates have personal passions will not only keep associates excited and working at your company, but they'll also help in attracting new associates, specifically in the younger generation. So that's a little bit about how we built our team and how we are able to translate our work throughout the organization. I want to also focus on like, what does sustainability mean to Carhartt? Sustainability can mean so many different things. At this point, it feels like the word sustainability doesn't really mean anything at all because of that fact. It can mean so many different things. So because of this, we worked with our strategy team to define Carhartt's key focus areas. We narrowed in on areas where we believe we have the highest potential of success and will also be the most meaningful to our consumers. We're focused on long-term impact while also looking for short-term wins to keep the company motivated. So, our key focus areas. At a very high level, we are able to narrow in the 3 key focus areas, which are reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, circularity, and transparency. I'm going to spend some time diving in on some of Carhartt's circularity efforts. So circularity at the base level essentially means creating a closed loop system by diverting products from the landfill and keeping them in use longer, or making new materials out of old materials. It is the process of designing out waste. This concept of building quality products with a focus on durability and longevity resonates so well with our brand. If you remember, it's how the brand was born. So it was natural for us to begin with circularity when building out our consumer-facing initiatives. We were already doing a lot of the work. We just needed to build out the official programs to highlight it and let our consumers know. We built out the Carhartt Built to Last commitment, and simply put, our commitment reads, at Carhartt, we stand behind the quality, craftsmanship, and performance of everything we make. If one of our products should fail to meet your expectations, we will work to make it right through a repair, replacement, or credit. Alongside our commitment, we built out our repair program. This service is free for our consumers. They are able to send in their worn jacket, pants, bib overalls to our development center in Kentucky for repair, and we will return it back to them in just a few weeks for free. Recently, we relaunched the Carhartt Reworked. We partner with Trove, a branded resale solution, to build out our Carhartt-owned resale website and take-back program. So consumers can come into our stores, they can sell their product back to us for a gift card. We then clean and repair the product if it's needed and sell it at a lower retail price on Carhartt Reworked website. If a product is not suitable for personal repair or to be resold, we also offer the opportunity for our consumers to give us their products for recycling. Another step they are taking to keep products from ending up in the landfill. And we'll continue to build on this concept year over year, really expanding about what it means to be able to reuse, recycle, and repair. So last but not least, within Carhartt, I again wanted to touch on, what does accessibility and community mean to the brand? And what is the importance of community and accessibility for our consumers? So before I moved into my position as Director of Sustainability, my title was Detroit Development Manager. My focus was on connecting in with our local community, looking to understand how we could serve this specific group. Our flagship store is in Detroit. It is a 3-story building that used to be a car showroom. At the time, we had just built out our first floor to be our store, with the top 2 floors still raw and in need of renovation. The company spent a couple of years trying to figure out what we wanted to do with this extra space. And then me and a couple of people throughout Carhartt were adamant that we didn't want to lease it out to someone. We didn't want to put in a brewery. We didn't want to put in a restaurant. Detroit at the time really didn't need any more of those. We also didn't think we needed a second floor of a store. So we got to thinking, who and what is Carhartt without our products? Really, like, why do we exist beyond that? We landed with, we exist to serve our hardworking consumer. But what does that mean for our local Detroit community? Really, what did they need from us? Like, how could we serve them specifically? So we spent about a year trying to figure that out and came up with about 15 different ideas of what we could put into the space to support the needs of Detroiters. Where we landed, I couldn't be more proud of. We got to the basics of work and built out what the Carhartt workshop is today. So some background, Detroit is filled with many homes that need a lot of work, but there's one problem. There really are not many hardware stores within the city limits. This can be a barrier for someone who doesn't have a car. Plus, tools can be really expensive, not only to purchase, but also to rent. If you go somewhere like a Home Depot to rent your tools, you have a limited time frame of being able to use them, and you could be spending a few $100s for just an hour or two, a couple hours with a tool. So we created a tool library, which is similar to a library where you rent your books. We have hundreds of different types of tools that the community can come and rent for free. We try to remove every barrier we could think of. You don't need a license or a credit card as a deposit. You just need to be 18 years or older and have some sort of ID. You can rent the tool for a week at a time, and our tool experts will show you how to use the tool and also give you safety supplies like Carhartt gloves and Carhartt safety glasses at your first rental. The second part of work that we were focused on was meeting space. In Detroit, again, there are not many meeting spaces, and those that we have access to can be quite expensive to rent out. So when thinking of our consumer who may own a small business or whose work is not at an office but on a job site, if they ever wanted to get their team together, we wanted to make that accessible for them. Also, Detroit has a lot of nonprofits with small budgets for things like team meetings or board meetings. So we built community spaces that are hybrid meeting rooms that can be used as in-person or virtual or hybrid. Again, these meeting spaces are completely free to use. Okay, so moving on to Eugenie, and I'll keep this quick, so I'm not talking at you for so long. So Eugenie, a little bit of history of Eugenie. So first, the why. Why did I open a boutique? With growing up, living and breathing all things Carhartt, it was drilled into my head at an early age that quality products matter. I was always on the search for well-made clothing that was made from natural materials from a brand that had a story to tell. In addition to that, I have always really loved retail, specifically independently owned boutiques. I love walking into a curated space and understanding what the owner or the buyer was trying to relay, what mattered and what was important to them. It spoke through the brands and their assortment. After living in other cities outside of Detroit and moving home, I always felt that something was missing in the retail scene. I didn't want to leave the city to do my shopping and always found myself shopping while on vacation versus going to a mall or shopping online. This is where the dream of opening a boutique stemmed from. As I was choosing the brands to put into my store, I noticed that they were all sustainable, or at least had values or a mission that was related to environmental or social impact. It was really my dad, Mark, who suggested I put guidelines around the brands that we carried in our store. Okay, so back to building the team. So with being a small business and a startup, it can quickly turn into everyone doing everything in order to keep the store running. When we opened, I started with a small team of 3 that specifically worked as sales associates. Quickly, I learned that this group had way more to offer than just being on the sales floor. So cut to where we are today. We still have a small team of 4 full-time employees, 1 part-time, and a few who work a few times a month. Each of the team's roles are referred to as hybrid. They all still work on the sales floor, yet they all have a focus area that they can take ownership of and run with. I have found that this brings loyalty to the brand, allows them to grow in their career, and has allowed me to retain my team, which can actually be quite difficult in the retail space. And it's especially incredibly important to me as someone who has a full-time job outside of the store. My team consists of my manager, who leads the retail store and e-commerce website and is responsible for all clothing sold or going out of the store, as well as customer service. An assistant buyer who assists me with buying and is in charge of all the products that come into the store. An operations lead who is responsible for keeping track of the back of the house and keeping it organized, and online orders packaged up. An e-commerce site merchant and social media specialist who does just what her title describes, and a sustainability specialist who researches every brand and pulls together materials and guidelines for the team on a weekly basis so that they're able to answer any questions our customer may have. Again, all of them also do retail in addition to their roles, which is really important in keeping them all connected to our customers. So defining what sustainability means to Eugenie. Like I mentioned, Eugenie is a boutique that only carries brands and products that have a focus on environmental or social impact. However, we are not prescriptive on what sustainability means for any of the brands that sit within our assortment. Coming from a brand's perspective, I know not only how hard it is to reroute your brand with this mindset, I also know that each brand is unique and has focus areas that work best for them. Therefore, we have brands that span a spectrum. For example, we have a brand from New Zealand that is B Corp certified and mainly uses organic cotton. This brand sits next to a brand that employs adults with disabilities to produce their products. I also often get asked the question or the comment that resale or a vintage shop is truly the most sustainable option for purchasing clothing. So why are all of our products new? My answer is I completely agree with you. Buying secondhand and giving a product another life is most definitely the most sustainable way to shop, as it doesn't require the production of new materials. That being said, and again, coming from someone who has grown up in the industry working for a brand, to me, it's incredibly important for us to support the work and innovation being done in our industry. People will never not buy new clothing. So when a brand makes an effort to be more sustainable or is born with a sustainable mindset, I believe it's incredibly important to support that effort and celebrate it. Okay, so outside of our sustainability guidelines, what are our focus areas at Eugenie? Transparency is a key element of who we are. We often get people that come into our store with an idea in their head of what sustainability means to them. We will hear, okay, so are all these products recycled? Or, so this must be all vintage or secondhand. This is why our sustainability specialist role is so critical. It is important that our entire team knows and understands the basics of each brand on the sales floor. And then also on our website, on every single product detail page, we have an area that reads, what makes this product sustainable? In this section, we outline what sustainability means to this specific product. So accessibility and community. Our community is what makes Eugenie so great. In Detroit, most stores have a made in Detroit mindset. I think that's very important. However, I chose to focus on another area, and therefore products come from all over, not only the country, but the world. I have brands that are based in Spain, France, Australia, LA, and I think it's really important to be able to give the Detroit community access to these brands and bring an outside perspective of fashion to the city. But I also believe that the fashion scene in the city is just as important. We make an effort to host pop-ups on a regular basis. This can mean up to 4 times a month. We dedicate part of our store to a young brand or designer to be able to tell their story and sell their products for no fee or profit sharing. We also collect used and lightly worn clothing on a regular basis to donate to those in need in our neighborhood. Okay, so nearing the end. What are some key learnings between what I've learned from working at Carhartt and Eugenie, and what can I share? So number 1, build an engaged team or organization. Buy-in and alignment is key for success. Number 2, you can't do everything at once. Narrow in to make the most impact, starting with what is most authentic to you, your product, and your customers' values. Be specific on your focus areas so that the organization knows what to prioritize. And 3, these concepts of building a competent team, reducing environmental impact, transparency, and community focus can be applied at every area of the business. And most importantly, we need to be talking about it at all levels. At the corporate level, reaching every associate, to our consumers and our customers who want to know the values of who they're purchasing from. At large, global companies like Carhartt and small local businesses like Eugenie. And we know these things don't happen overnight. It takes time and an aligned team. Sustainability is all about the journey and progress over perfection. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Gretchen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to ask you some questions. That was an amazing talk, and thank you for doing that. So as a director of sustainability at Carhartt and the founder of Eugenie, you're not only a leader in the sustainability sector, but you're also a woman leader. So I was wondering if you could answer, how do you think your position serves as a source of inspiration and empowerment to women who are looking to lead?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm grateful that Carhartt is really a woman-led business. The first president at Carhartt outside of a family member is a woman, Linda Hubbard, and about half of our senior executive team is a woman as well. So I feel very fortunate that in our company specifically, we have a lot of women leaders, but I know that's not the case outside of like at every company. So yeah, I think it's really important to see women who are in roles that are not just support roles, like, you know, like an HR or an area that's really there to like support the working areas of the business. It's really important to be in a position that's making an impact. So I think that I'm really intentional on making sure that I'm bringing in those voices and hearing from all types of underrepresented groups when making decisions or when building the team.
That's amazing. So also your mission at Carhartt to bring sustainability to the forefront is really admirable. And it seems like your team has done so much in so little time. And I'm just wondering if there was a certain moment in your career or early on when like you really committed to this, because it seems like you have such a passion for sustainability. So yeah, if there's any like specific moment that you felt inspired, I would love to hear what that was.
Yeah, I think it was definitely like a slow realization with working in so many different areas of the business. I think I really started thinking about sustainability from the community perspective. So just spending so much time in Detroit and getting to know the community and really trying to understand what value a company and a brand can bring to like a really like localized group of people. And from the work within community, I started to think about like how our products are made and what community looks like outside of just our customers. So, you know, our supply chain community, you know, all the way back to the farmers who are growing the cotton that goes into our products. And so my realization of community really started to expand and expand and expand. And realized that, you know, that's really the area that I'm really passionate and focused on is how can you make sure that stakeholders throughout the entire, you know, supply chain, again, back to like the farmers who are growing the cotton that goes into your t-shirt, how can you make sure that we're being fair and making sure that, you know, they are surrounded with support and a focus on making sure that we're not exploiting them and focus on their health as well. So really it stemmed from community, but grew into just a wider understanding of the apparel industry as a whole and how we can work to reduce our impact.
Yeah, it seems like you really honed in on like people throughout the whole process and trying to discover what's going on from the ground all the way to the offices, which is really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question is, as future generations become more aware of the environmental impact of the fashion industry, how does Carhartt plan to incorporate messaging about sustainability in either their marketing or their messaging?
Yeah, really good question. So our history is being very humble, I would say, and quiet about the work that we're doing. So it's really a new muscle that we're building and storytelling and being transparent about our work that we're doing. So we dedicated a section to our website that we refer to as the ISC Hub, but it's our purpose section where we're able to refresh it on a regular basis with stories of what we're doing within the sustainability and environmental space, as well as the inclusion and community space. So we have made an effort to prioritize that storytelling. And then also just making sure that we're connecting in on other levels with our community as well, understanding what our consumers want. You know, are they really interested in our packaging, for example? And if so, like, how can we highlight that storytelling? Or are they really focused on our materials and like the farmers who are growing our materials? And how can we partner with different organizations to help build up these areas, but also help share a story and help translate why it's important, not only to like our brand, but the industry as a whole. So I would say storytelling is really at the forefront of how we're communicating what we're doing.
Speaking of that, I feel like there's so many things that Carhartt is doing behind the scenes that you don't really hear about. I mean, they're starting to talk about the repair programs and There's the reducing of packaging, which I think is really incredible. And also the building energy management systems that were put into, I think, 6 different facilities, which is incredible. And then also when I visited the factories in Kentucky, I I noticed that there were so many materials that were being used that were recycled. And that was just so incredible to me. Like some of the main products that you have, like the work pants and the lining for the jackets, were recycled material. And then one thing I wanted to ask you about too, you mentioned it before when you were speaking, but when I spoke to a lot of the workers at the factories in Kentucky, there was just a resounding theme that so many people have been working for Carhartt for so long, for years and even decades. So I was just wondering if you can comment on that and why you think that is, why Carhartt seems to have such a family mentality of people who really stay with the brand, because I don't think you see that too often anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's something that we definitely pride ourselves on is our retention of our workers and even generations of workers. Specifically at our factories, you can see a young person working next to their mom or their grandma, and really it's a really big focus on family in our factories as well as our headquarters in Dearborn. And I think, part of it could be that we are a family-owned company. We really value the work-life balance. We value family. We really see our associates as our best assets that we have. And we really try and put their needs first. So whether it's, during a global crisis like COVID, or whether, there's a really horrible, sad, like family home fire, really we're working to just be as supportive as we can. And also we really like to promote within. So really upskilling our associates, making sure that their needs are being met. I have the opportunity, of course, to move around a company and be able to learn different areas of the business, but that's not as unique as you might think. There are a lot of different people who are able to have a career in, let's say, like merchandising, but want to learn about sales, or someone who is in planning but wants to get into design. So I think like also that ability to move and switch roles. And so instead of just like a vertical promotion, there's a horizontal movement throughout the company. I think that also really helps, because we really want our associates to be able to be really happy and comfortable and be able to see their value in the work that they're contributing to us, because work takes up so much time, like such a big part of your life, really. We want to make sure that they're getting just as much out of it as we are.
Yeah, and I mean that was a theme that I heard as well, is that there was a lot of promotions into other areas, and it keeps people interested, and that was really cool. And I'm wondering, like, as far as bringing into the sustainability roles and that team, like, how does the interconnectivity work between marketing and production, which I'm sure is so important when it comes to sustainability? How has that been working with those different teams to implement your
Yeah, that's a
strategies?
good question. So I mentioned our steering committee. So that's like those higher level leaders, but we also have key partners in all the departments as well. So specifically within brand and marketing, we have a brand manager that's entire focus is on the ISC team. So they're really playing that connection between the work that we're doing. So, they're involved in sitting in all of our meetings. They really know our strategy just as well as we do. So that they're able to make sure that they make that connection within the brand and marketing team, where they know their strategy and, their goals and priorities just as well. So we're able to naturally plug in where it makes sense versus, just like squeezing in stories here and there. So I think that that's really key in being able to work in the business. And then within supply chain, we have key partners as well that we meet with on a regular basis, and we're able to share the work that we're doing, help align and prioritize. I overuse those words, but they are really important. And then same with our research and development and innovation team. So constantly meeting, constantly sharing what we're doing, and really just like working hand in hand and seeing how we can help each other. And even if it's like a one-off project with like the merchandising team and they found this new material, they're really excited about it. Maybe it's a little bit more expensive because it's more sustainable. We're able to really jump in and be that support system for them and help them build that business case to show, okay, yes, it might be, X amount, a little bit more expensive, but you get like X consumer value from it. You get a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions at X%, and really build that entire story outside of just margin and profit.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's so important, because so many times I feel like people aren't speaking with each other. So you're able to have it happen on a much wider company scale when you do that. So it's amazing. So this other question I have might be a little harder to answer. But as Carhartt continues to grow, because it seems to be growing at such a rapid pace, how do you manage production from a sustainability standpoint? Is there any way to produce less but still grow? And how does companies that are so focused on sustainability deal with that?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question to ask. And going back to the fact that we've had people that have worked with us for decades, it's a question that we get asked all the time. Things were going great, a couple of years ago, but now we've had this growth, things change. It's bigger, can be harder to communicate. You really have to make more of that effort. And so I think that it's a couple things. It's starting new businesses like Carhartt Reworked, where the primary focus isn't revenue, but really, that sustainability mindset of keeping products out of the landfill, but also opening your doors to new consumers in a different way. So you're not producing more, but you're also not contributing to the landfill and also getting new consumers. So it's really a win-win-win. So that's a way that we've focused on that area of like, what does growth mean for us? But then also being, again, just very intentional about understanding where your emissions come from and where your impact lies. So I think this is true for every apparel brand. A lot of the impact and the emissions come from the growing of the fiber, and then also the dyeing of the material. And so we're being very intentional to look at those two areas of our business to make sure that we're reducing our amount of impact as much as we can. So whether that means transitioning, from conventional cotton to more sustainable cotton, or whether it means looking at different dyeing methods that we can, whether they're natural dyes or whether they're, like waterless dyes or whatever that may look like, really being intentional at those key parts of the supply chain where the emissions happen. So although there's growth, there's also a reduction in your impact, which is really important.
No, I think it's a perfect answer. So I have more questions, but I want to make sure, because we're running out of time, that there's some in the chat. Let's see. Okay. Someone asked about the repair program. How many repairs do you get, and can that be overwhelming?
So, great question. So we have an amazing development team in Kentucky, like I mentioned. And they, so for our repair program, it's relatively new. We haven't done too much marketing. So we're only about like 10,000 consumer repairs a year right now, but we have a plan to grow that as we are being more transparent in marketing it. But that being said, we also repair products that go to our Carhartt Reworked program. And so leading up to the launch of that, there were 40,000 units. And so our repair team was repairing those as well. And they still have capacity. In addition to that core team of sewers who are able to do repair, we also have backup systems in place. So at another factory down the road, we have trained our sewers on repairing zippers. Zippers is our number one part of the product that needs repair. And so we're able to make sure that we have a backflow so that people are not without their products for a long amount of time. In addition to that, we also have created DIY repair kits. So our consumers or customers, they can go into our retail stores and purchase them. They can buy them online. So that we kind of think of it as like a toolkit to keep with your gear. So if you're on the job or you're at home and you like to do DIY things, you don't have to actually like send in your jacket. You can do the repair yourself. So those are a few of the ways that we've kind of tried to think about how we can reduce the impact on our consumers by having them be without their jacket for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think people get so attached to their Carhartt clothing and their jackets. And when I was down in Kentucky, I got to see some of the repairs coming in and the team that did that. And it was just so cool to see, like, because they were so intimate with each one, you know, and they have that same, they almost have the same connection as the owner does. So it was very cool. But I know we're running out of time. So the other question here we have, how many factories does Carhartt have, and are they visited often to ensure safe conditions?
Yes, so we have our own, our internal social compliance team as well as sourcing team. And so we have factories globally, so all over the world. And we make sure that we personally audit all of them. So whether it's our team that sits in Dearborn, Michigan, or in Kentucky or Tennessee, we also have offices and contractors or employees or associates that have offices in China and other areas of Asia to make sure that we always have someone like on the ground visiting our factories. Not only do we make sure that we physically visit our apparel factories, but also our licensee factories as well. So products that we license out, such as our boots and gloves and backpacks, you know, we make sure that we have eyes on those too.
That's amazing. I think we're over the time already. I mean, thank you so much for everything and answering these questions today. And I'm sure if there are more, maybe you can tell people how to reach out to you. But thank you so much for taking the time today. Suhail, I'm sorry, I know we went over, but we're wrapping up now.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat with anyone or answer any questions. My email is grvalade, V as in Victor, ALADE @carhartt.com. And Carhartt is CARHARTT. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well. So looking forward to connecting. And thank you again so much. Great. I'm honored to be here.
Thanks, Gretchen. It was amazing. You know, I couldn't track. I just lost the track of time. You know, it was very amazing and engaging. You know, and I was literally thinking about like asking questions, but it was Alex. You know, so wanted to ask the question about how can the fashion industry balance the ever-changing trends, which happened all of a sudden in there, and then Alex was all right there, and I was like she's out there, and she helped me to to get my answers, and it was amazing to have on the summit, and we look for like having more sessions with you, wherein we would definitely need your guidance, because young people really want to take up the opportunity and a lot of like positions to help their communities, wherein they genuinely want to kind of remove the challenge which exists there for their communities. And I tell you that for so many reasons, challenge are very dynamic across the globe. Maybe some challenges which are prevalent in the United States might not be, might not have an effect of that magnitude in India. So there is a chance, and there is an opportunity and the need of having a larger alliance among people like you and us to take the lead. Again, I take the honor to pass my gratitude. Thanks so much for being with us, and amazing to have you. Thanks so much. Thank you.